you don't feel strong enough to stand, well, you can reach out your hand. Someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head up, look around. You will be found. Yeah, you will be found. There's a place where we don't have to feel unknown. Every time you call out, you're a little less alone. Oh, and if you only say the word, from across the silence, your voice is heard. Oh, even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head up, look around. You will be found. Yeah, you will be found. Out of the shadow, morning is breaking, and all that's new, all that's new. It's filling up the empty, and suddenly I see that everything is new. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head up, look around. You will be found.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to New England Chapel. I'm Heather. I'm one of the pastors here. And some of you may know this, and some of you may not, about what happens on the other side of this building every Sunday. What's over there? Kids Zone. That's like this is fun. That's really fun over there. And Kids Zone is a very important, special place in my heart. When I first started coming to New England Chapel, I was a volunteer in Kids Zone. And every year around this time, Joy, our Kids Zone director, is looking for new volunteers to help out in Kids Zone. So it's just once a month for 1 hour. If you have ever been interested in what happens there, if you would like to learn more about it, we'd be happy to tell you about that. Specifically, she's looking for people in Big Kids Zone, which is kindergarten through 5th grade. You should see it today, back there, right now. It's they have all these games set up. So it's fun, but there's opportunity to learn. We give you all the material you need. You just have to show up on that Sunday. So please consider volunteering in there. And then my final and second announcement today is the women's retreat is coming up. I cannot believe September 15th is almost here. Now, bad news first. All the beds are taken. It's full capacity. Good news is we have a no overnight option, which means it's in Sharon. You can come Friday night and sleep in your own bed at home, and then come back on Saturday and have all the meals, and then come back on Sunday. So if that seems appealing to you, if you can fit that in your schedule, we'd love to have you come. The theme is Seasons of Faith, and we're talking about how God is closer than you think. It's always an awesome time together. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. All right, have a great morning.
Welcome to New England Chapel. I'm Mary, one of the band leaders here at NEC, and today we're just so happy to have you here worshiping with us. This summer we're doing a series called Streaming Faith, and it made me think of today's message. My husband and I got married at NEC when it was at the warehouse. Those of you who are new, the warehouse, I know it sounds a little weird, but I guess we're in a bowling alley now, so. But we got married about 16 years ago, and I don't know if anybody was here then and remembers this, but we did a series on postures of Jesus, and there were these giant black paper silhouettes hanging on the wall of all these different postures of Jesus. And so it was our rehearsal for the wedding, and we noticed one of the Jesuses was like flapped over, and we thought, oh, probably isn't good, like all these people are coming to our wedding. So we sent one of my husband's groomsmen up on the ladder, who happens to be Jewish, and as he's like pushing Jesus's like face back against the wall, he was like, am I the person who should be doing this? And so he had a very good sense of humor, and we all had a good laugh. But today, Marc, a longtime friend of NEC, and coincidentally, he was a singer at our wedding that day, will be reminding us that we are all connected to God. And really, there's nothing we can do to separate that, and it's nothing we need to earn. So please stand for our second song, Who Am I? I'm going to bring out another singer here.
Who am I that the highest king would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for Don't pretend to be something that you're not. Living life afraid of getting caught. There is freedom found when we lay our secrets down at the cross, at the cross. So bring your brokenness and I'll bring mine. 'Cause love can heal what hurt divides, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, if we're honest, it would change our lives. It would set us free. It's what we need to be. So bring your brokenness and I'll bring mine. 'Cause love can heal what hurt divides, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, if we're honest, if we're honest.
Fantastic. Morning, everyone. Welcome to New England Chapel. If this is your first time, my name is Mike. I'm one of the pastors here, and I am not preaching, but I'm here to introduce our preacher, who I would say is a guest speaker, but really is not. He's been around for quite a while, but yeah. So nice. And since you guys all made fun of me about the kiddie softballs last week, I'm out. Yeah. And so, for those of you who don't know Mark, I wanted to come out and introduce him because he has been a longtime member. He's an OG, right?
I guess so.
And it's funny because I got a little alert today that 5 years ago today, we were hiring our last youth pastor. And Mark was one of our first paid staff youth pastors, and we burnt him out. We burnt him out in about 11 years ago. He jumped ship and runs an amazing CrossFit gym now, and we're so glad to have you back. Mark's on Sunday mornings, and his dad, who's I know proud dad, leads the Monday night men's group, and so we've got a nice
get rid of us.
Pitts tag team, double header. So thanks for coming,
Absolutely.
and look forward to what you have to say.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Thanks for I should probably go now. After that. Great to be here. You know, Mike told me, here's the series we're in. We're doing this faith with streaming, and I was like, oh man, this could be a problem. I don't really watch that many shows. I spend more time on Instagram stories. You have my attention for 15 seconds, and I'm swiping up. So I have to actually give a clip. So I went to my source, who does watch shows, actually watches one show, and that is my son. So Jacob, who's my middle, he is on I don't know, what are we on, 5 or 6 times through all 9 seasons of The Office. So I said, Jake, here's the topic. We're going to be talking about being with God and what that looks like to be with him and not moving away from him. And so I need you to come up with something. And I was like, he's like, when do I have till? I was like, I'll give you the week. You got a whole week to come up with this. Well, 3 minutes later, he's like, how about this one? Sends it. I was like, nailed it. Perfect. So anyway, I didn't actually watch it, so we'll hope it's appropriate. We'll hope it's appropriate. He's 13, you never know. I mean, that's 50-50 on that. So anyway, let's watch this clip.
Got it.
Okay, let's go in. I'm freezing.
people, wait, come back. One fun one. We're gonna do a fun one.
Okay. One Charlie's Angels. One. Let's go.
Okay, this is just a Christmas card from your paper supplier. No one's putting this on their fridge.
Oh, I got it. You guys, how about this? Michael, what if all the boys are on one side, all the girls are on the other? The boys are like, why, yada, and the girls are like, let's go shopping.
Let's just jump in the air.
That's it. That's a picture. Yes, jump in the air. We're gonna jump in the air. Here we go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Not everyone jumped.
Okay, everybody jump in the air this time, please. Here we go.
1, 2, 3. Still some people not jumping.
You gotta be kidding me. Who isn't jumping?
I'll tell you who. Daryl, Phyllis, Stanley, Angela, and Oscar.
I am jumping.
You are?
Yes,
Let me
I'm
see
jumping.
you jump.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is a store-bought camera. This isn't one of those special military-grade cameras that would be able to capture that.
I'm freezing.
Also, Erin is jumping way too early. She's on the ground by 3.
I don't want to miss it.
Well, if we all jump really high, we'll be in the air longer.
Okay, here's a question nobody's asking. Is this worth it? Don't answer that. Hey, people, listen up and listen good. We need to just get one picture where we're all in the air at the same time. Yes? I believe in us. We can do this.
Okay, on 3. Everyone in the air. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Just
Safe jump. Jump.
We didn't get it.
We're just going to watch that. That has nothing to do with the sermon. Nothing. I just find it funny. No, you know, here's the thing. As I was watching that, and basically, we're going to get to how this ties in, because it does, I promise. But here's the thing. I've stood in one too many family photo shoots of this. No offense, Mom. One too many family photo shoots of this, and that we sit there and we're like, all right, one more picture. And oh, nope, somebody was blinking. Oh, nope, somebody was jumping at the wrong time. Oh, no, somebody was turning away. Somebody was looking at the tree up here. And I'm like, 20 minutes later, and instead of 1, 2, 3, now we're counting down from 3. Like, let's all go on 3. And he says 3, and nobody's doing anything that they're supposed to do. It all starts working. So then what happens? Somebody's frustrated over here. Can we just get the picture? I'm done with the pictures. We're all set with these. Somebody over here, nope, we need one more. One more, we'll get it this time. And we're going like back and forth, and the level of frustration gets so immense. But we're going to keep going at this until we get the right picture, right? There's always that one person. Sorry, Mom. That's unfair, Mom. That's unfair. Mike will invite me back, but my mom will not invite me back. But the thing is what I find is that in situations like that, right, we're going to keep working hard. Let's do one more. Let's work hard until we get it right. And it seems that at the end of the day, sometimes that doesn't always happen, right? So it's maybe not photos. Maybe you guys don't have the same photo experiences that I do. But I do find in many conversations that I have had with people, as well as just from my own life, how often I hear people talking about, I am trying and I just can't seem to get it right. I am working so hard and I just can't, nothing changes and nothing gets fixed. I'm working, and the picture still isn't coming out. You know, recently I was talking to a friend and he said the same thing. He used that actual phrasing. He said, I just can't get it right. So I asked him, what is the it that you can't get right? What's the it? And he said, well, I keep screwing up my family and how we're doing with that. I keep screwing up the way in which I live. I keep making poor decisions in my life. So I said, well, what would be different if it was the opposite of what you're feeling is happening right now? He said, well, my relationship would be so much better. My relationship with my spouse would be so much better. My kids would actually like me. I would be a better person. I'd be functioning better. But here's my problem is no matter how hard I try, I just can't get it right. Every time I take the picture, it doesn't come out right. You know, and rewind from my friend, and I'll talk about myself because this, you know, more often than not, I think I'm working on this. But oftentimes, what does my wife say to me? It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? Huh. Others might be in the same boat. I appreciate that. Don't look at the people next to you. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so what have I done? I've worked really, really hard at fixing that, trying to think about my tone. And so now in the house, all that I do is talk like this. So now you know, how are you doing? You look great. This is nice. And then you talk like that, and it still is like, well, you don't even have emotion for me. Like, I mean, it's a lose-lose. But no matter how hard I've tried, I have honestly worked really hard at my tone, paying attention to how I say what I'm saying. And what do? I still screw that up. Go back to Friday night this week, that same thing happened. And we got into a discussion around it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's like, man, I've tried so hard, and I still can't seem to get it right. I've been in this part of the small group, and we've been talking a little bit about, we went through this book called With. And this book is talking about what it means to be with God and how hard that can be, because not only do we do this in our relationships, but we do this with God too. We try so hard, right? And so the book really is like how oftentimes what we tend to do with God is that it's not being with him, but we're doing stuff for him so that in turn he will fill in the blank. He'll love us more, he'll care more about us, whatever it might be, right? So we're going to work really, really hard. I'm going to be a better person. Go back to my friend and what he said. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to try really hard to be a better person. Then God will, in fact, love me, appreciate me, care for me, whatever thing we have, however we view that in our minds. And as we were talking about going through this book, I was talking about how I grew up feeling about God. Like, this was not based off the church. It wasn't based off my family. It was just however I was perceiving things. And this was my feeling about God. And I had this very similar feeling that my friend had, which was I'm constantly screwing up with God. And I just need to try harder. And so, but it also seemed that I could just never try hard enough. I could never do all the right things. And so how I lived was in this world of like guilt and shame. I was never meeting up to whatever standards I felt God had of me. It was this picture that I just could not get right. It certainly was that sort of relationship that just seemed to be so hard for me to get right, that relationship with God. And so I'd try harder and try harder. And then I'd mess up and mess up. I want to look at a story today that hopefully gives us hope of what living with Christ actually looks like, what living with God looks like. And, you know, I really, with this series of like just trying to take clips and taking these concepts of like these basic faith concepts of like how can we live with, right? That's a very basic faith concept. We need to live with God. Yet it's so hard, but how can we practically do that? So what a great series to try to start looking at basic faith concepts and saying, let's put this into practice and let's wrestle with it, because oftentimes, right, simple isn't always easy. So I want to take a look at this story. And stick with me on the story, because there's a lot of backdrop that we need to get to the actual passage, which is going to be in Psalms. And you're going to look at it and be like, this sounds like the opposite of what you're trying to get at. But just stick with it, because we do need the background of this. So we're going to get to a passage in Psalms, but I got to give the backdrop as to how we get there. And so there is a story in the Old Testament. It's in Samuel. And so it comes from David. Now, David was somebody who was named a man after God's own heart, right? Somebody who's constantly chasing after God. Somebody who is like, has like God built him. He was the second king, right? So Saul was the first king, then David's named king, and he becomes so powerful, and yet he constantly is striving to live with God. What a great picture for us to see, right? Somebody who has all the power they have, but are willing to give up that power in order to chase after who God is. If we fast forward to the New Testament, we see Jesus. That's what he does, right? He gives up all of his power and dies on the cross for us. Anyway, that is just an aside. So this story that we might know, you might have known whether you've been in church or maybe just in hearing about it, story of David and Bathsheba, right? I'm going to give you a very quick, very abridged version of David and Bathsheba. Here's what it is. David sees her. He likes her. He wants her. So then he decides, I'm going to sleep with her. He does, and he gets her pregnant. Now he's in a little bit of a sticky situation because she's married, and he knew that. So what does he do? Talk about somebody trying to like manipulate all the pieces, try to set the right picture. So what does he do? So as the king, he's also head of the military, right? And so there was Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, is in the military. He calls him home. He was fighting, brings him home. And he says, hey, since you're home, why don't you go home and be with your wife? You know, if I can sort of manipulate this situation just a little bit, then I can say, congrats, Uriah, you got your wife pregnant. So Uriah doesn't. He goes to his house, but doesn't even step foot in the house. He says, how could I be with my... So David calls him back. Hey, did you see your wife? No, I did not. Well, why wouldn't you see your wife? You're home. I've given you permission to be with her. He says, no, I didn't see her. How could I do that if all the men are out there fighting? So David then goes a step further. The picture's still not right. Let me take another picture. He gets him wasted and says, that's going to strip all inhibitions from this man. So he gets him wasted. He goes back. He says, go be with your wife. He goes home. He sleeps on the doormat outside of his house. Maybe he passed out, I don't know. So he still doesn't go in the house. So David goes a step further. And he says to his commander, he says, here's what we're going to do. Uriah's going back. Put him on the front lines. When the fighting gets the heaviest, I want everybody to pull back. You leave Uriah out there, kill him. David then swoops in. He takes Bathsheba as his wife. No one will know. The picture looks great. Well, a prophet comes in the next chapter, somebody that David trusted and respected, this guy Nathan. He comes to him and gives him this whole metaphor. There was this rich guy. He had everything that he needed and wanted. He had all the cattle and the sheep. Well, there was this one peasant who had one animal. And this ruler had this rich guy. He ended up having this guy, somebody came over to his house. And what did he do? He had all the livestock he could have taken and made and made an amazing meal. He went and took the peasant's one animal, killed that, and fed it. And David gets enraged. He's fuming. That man deserves to die, and he should be paid back 4 times what he owes. David looks at him. What does he say? You're that man. I think at first glance, this whole man after God's own heart thing seems pretty dark. Sounds like this picture's not quite right. And I'll say this, David could have responded, right, in so many ways. He could have denied it. No, Nathan, you don't know what you're talking about. He could have made excuses for it. He could have said, look, I'm the king. I do what I want when I want. But here's what I think is what we continue to see with David, because we do see this guy mess up in so many different areas of his life. And here's what he does. Because I don't think he's a man after God's own heart, obviously, because of his behavior, but it's his response. And this is what I want us to hold on to today. Here's what being with God can look like. It's not creating the best photo that you can. It's not all these pieces of like, we're going to work really, really hard so that we have this image of who God thinks we are. Because here's how David responds. And it is such a powerful picture. And one that is so, so hard. Nathan comes, you're that man, and here's what David says. He writes a psalm, Psalm 51. And he says, have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion. Blot out my transgressions, wash away all my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. There's 3 words in there, transgressions, iniquity, and sin, that all mean similar pieces, which is just like all the things I keep turning away from you. I keep turning away from you. But here's what we need to, if we read those first 2 parts, right? Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion. I want us to reread and hold on to that part, because what an image we get of David. Remember, king, most powerful man on earth. And what does he do? He comes to God in humility. He's not trying harder to improve his situation. He doesn't say, oh man, I screwed up, God, give me a redo. He gets there. But the first thing David does is he acknowledges who God is. And he comes to him in humility. He appeals to God's mercy, God's compassion, God's unfailing love. You know, go back to my tone, and how often do you appeal to myself, to my abilities? I think hard enough, I read enough, that I can directly change my behavior and maybe even others' behavior and my actions. If I change that, then I'm a better person, then I can go to God. When the picture is perfect, then I can go to God. And David does something totally opposite of that. And he says, I'm going to acknowledge who God is first. And who is he? You have unfailing love, not me. You have mercy, I don't. You have great compassion. Everything that we saw David do was the opposite of compassion. I need to be rescued and healed. That's ultimately what he's saying. I need to be rescued and healed from myself because I can't do it. I can't do enough. I can't work hard enough. But your unfailing love can and does. David first acknowledges and recognizes who God is. And being a person after God's own heart is somebody that comes in humility first. No matter how powerful you are, how much money you have, or how low you feel, we can acknowledge his mercy, his compassion, and his love. David goes on, and he says, for I know my transgressions and my sin, right? Those things. I know that I've shifted and changed. I know my behavior is askew from what you want me to be, how you want me to live. And it's always before me. Against you, you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. So you are right in your verdict and justified when you judge. You know, I remember when my son was younger, and he had this 1 month of, I think it was almost exactly like 1 month of just straight up lying to us, like about the most ridiculous things. And so I think, either I was a stay-at-home dad at the time or I was heading in that direction, because NEC was moving me out of here. No, try to go be with your own kids before you're with other people's kids. And he was like, just straight up lies for this month straight. And so we would go, I would take them, this was our field trip, I would go grocery shopping with them every day. And we would go, and while we were grocery shopping, their treat was they could go pick out a yogurt from the aisle that had Oreos or M&M toppings, right? You know those ones that has the little topping on top? So they could go pick it up. That was their big treat. That was their thing. They were very clear. This is it for the day, all right? I was very clear. This is it for the day. Well, there was one day that we're outside, and my son, he's sitting there just eating a yogurt. And I was like, where'd you get that from? And I knew, because when I do something, my mother-in-law, man, my family shouldn't be here. My mother-in-law always decides, well, I should probably go to BJ's and buy all the yogurts that they have there. So she would fully stock the fridge. The one thing that I have with my kids that I can hold on to, like their behavior is dictated by whether or not they get a yogurt. That's all that I'm holding on to. Now they have unlimited supply. So anyway, he's sitting there eating the yogurt. I was like, where'd you get that from? And without skipping a beat, he says, from the woods. The woods. And so I go over and I was like, this is cold. Like, we're in the middle of summer. You didn't get this from the woods. Did you get this from grandma's? He not only that, so he has this one and he goes, no, but this one came from the woods too. Like, he's 13 now and he's matured a little bit over there. You know, David, the most powerful man, did everything that he could to conjure up a plan, right? Everything he could. This didn't work, let's try this. This didn't work, let's take it this step further. This didn't work, let's go this far. But when David comes in humility first, right, acknowledge who God is. He then acknowledges who he has hurt, who he has sinned against. God. Recognizing what? That God sees all. If we go back to that part, right, it's against you and only you have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. And it's not, I don't see that, right? If we read this passage, I can't just pull that out and say, oh, well, I just have to beat up myself, right? That's not what this is about. He's acknowledging who God is, and he's acknowledging what he's done. And he knows, he recognizes that, God, you see all. And you know, in hindsight, right, what my son did was comical. But in his mind, I believe he thought, I've got a really good story. And I can get away with this. David, I think, in his mind, I have a really good story, and I can get away with this. And all these layers that he put on with Bathsheba, we can look at and see, how did you think you were going to get away with this? My son had maybe a belief that I didn't know or see anything. But then he recognizes and acknowledges, I've done what is evil in your sight. You see it and you know it. And I think part of our challenge, part of our control, is that we hide what we want to hide. We try to hide what we want to hide in relationships that we have with people, and we can be good at that part. But especially we do that with God. We work really hard, then he can see, well, I am a good person. David flips that around in these two verses and recognizes, I've done, you see, you know me, you see me. I've done what's evil in your sight. And then I trust however you're going to respond. And the hard part when I read that particular part of the passage is, do we acknowledge who God is? And do we trust him? And here's what I hope we can put our trust in. Because David goes on, and here's how there's a little bit more after this, but here's how we're going to wrap up today. He says, surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me, yet you desired faithfulness even in the womb. You taught me wisdom in that secret place. And then he says this, I know who you are, I know what I've done, and I know that only you can rescue me. Even though I know who you are and I know who I am, and that does not go in alignment. But then he says, at the same time, I know it's only you that can do this. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins. Blot out my iniquity. Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit in me. Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. You want something to do this week? Take that, like verse 7 to 12. Stick it up on a wall somewhere. And have that be your prayer. What a bold prayer it is. Cleanse me, God, because I know you can. And I trust that you do. Because only you are the one. Not my work, not all the stuff that I try to do, even when I lie to you and try to hide stuff from you, even when I lie to the relationships or hide stuff from the relationships of the people around me, you still can cleanse me. You see me, you know me, I need a cleaning that only you can provide. My wife is a lot stronger than I am, and like literally stronger than me. And so she just did a 100-mile ruck walk to raise money for families with kids with cancer. And they had to do 25 miles a day over 4 days. Listen to me, they had 25 miles a day over 4 days, not a big deal. Well, the second day, this was, you may or may not remember this, I don't remember yesterday. So there was this like torrential downpour 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like that. And so the second day, Friday, and she was caught out in this thunderstorm, like torrential downpour. My son and I were driving to where we were trying to meet her at the end, and we're driving up this road, and we're just like watching the road wash away. We're like, hey, keep an eye, see if people are coming down here, because my mom might be there. And so thunder, lightning, and so we're at the finish line, and we're looking, and we see like sideways rain, and we see finally like this blur that's coming towards us. We're like, all right, that must be her. Here she comes. And sure enough, it was. And she starts making her way towards us, and all of a sudden there was like 2 people. It's like, oh, she's an angel. I don't know what is happening. No, but there's 2 people now that are coming. And this guy, Michael, that she ended up walking with, and they ended up finishing together. The next day, I was at one of the stations that they would have, like refill stations that they would have. And in comes Michael, and he walks up to me. He's like, hey, I'm Michael. Are you Mark? And I was like, I am. Depends. Who's asking? So I am. And so he said, I was the one walking with your wife yesterday. And I was like, oh, man, thank you so much. I mean, it was horrible weather. And here's what he then follows that up with. And he says, he was going on about how, strong my wife was, and I couldn't believe that she was trudging through this and just grinding this out, and it was amazing to see her, like, pound through this. Meanwhile, I'm like, Michael, I mean, I think you were doing the same thing, were you not? And here's what he said. He said, I just thought it'd be better to help carry someone through that circumstance than have them go at it alone. Like, why would they work on this by themselves? And he said, and vice versa, like the same for me. Here's a powerful thing. You go through that prayer in Psalm 51. God comes to us, not away from us, in the storms that we're dealing with. He doesn't get in this, man, it is torrential downpour, I'm out of here. He doesn't try to sprint ahead. I'm going to finish this before the rain comes. No, he did the exact opposite when he sent his son. He didn't save him. He went to the cross for us. So that we could be whiter than snow. David recognizes this. He understands it. And so what does he do? In the middle of his storm, in the middle of all the things he tried to conjure up, he goes to God, not away. He doesn't try to paint the perfect picture. He says, God, I know who you are. I know who I am. I know that is askew. And I'm asking you to come and clean me. Paul writes, he's an author that wrote a lot of the end of the Bible. In Romans, he said, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, right? While we missed the mark, he died for us. David, in verse 12, says, God, may you restore us to the joy of your salvation. Man, that's awesome. There's no hiding. There's no being isolated. There's no trying to fix stuff on our own. We're not earning anything. We've already been given everything. A relationship with him. And we can celebrate with the joy of that salvation. Let's close in prayer. God, I thank you for, first of all, I just thank you for your word. I thank you for such an encouraging passage, really, and I know sometimes it can be so hard, and there's words that are tough, and the Bible can be tough to get through, but at the same time, the truth and the what you're giving us, this image of who you are, as much as sometimes we don't feel that, the image of who we are, which at first glance can be pretty dark, but the image then of who you have created us to grow into and be with you is awesome. And I pray that that part, we can over and over just step into that relationship with you. That we don't have to work really hard, that we don't have to wait until the right picture's been taken, but that we can come to you wherever we're at. And I thank you for that love. I thank you for your mercy. I thank you for your compassion. We pray these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Thanks, Mark. Fantastic message for a communion Sunday. And there's so many different ways to look at communion. Like, it's actual edible stuff, although, gluten-free. It's not super amazing, and this is like Welch's grape juice, but it is edible. And in one respect, it's really cool because you are literally eating and drinking love, grace, mercy, and forgiveness. And so that's a cool way to look at it. But one of my favorite ways to look at communion is through the lens of first century wedding imagery that is really chock full in the communion sacrament. And back in Jesus' day, a marriage was like a transaction, and there was a couple things that had to take place. One, the bride-to-be parents, family, had to come up with a good dowry, a good bride price. And if it was just like something small, just a donkey, forget it. I'm going to go find someone else. So the bride price had to be as valuable as possible to get the best groom and family as possible. And so there was that side of the transaction. And so what would happen if, for the engagement to take place, it would take place in the bride's family's house. And the groom and his family would come, and the groom's dad would take some wine and pour it in a cup and give it to his son. And his son would extend that cup to the bride-to-be and says, this cup symbolizes my life that I give to you. And she has a moment where she could say, nah, forget it, and it's all off. Or she could take the cup and drink from it. And so those two things, there's the extending of the cup, but there's also this, it's all in balance over sort of wealth and economics too, because there's the bride price, there's the dowry. And the cool thing about the wedding imagery in this sacrament is that God handles both sides. It's like, I don't care what you have to offer. I'm going to bring the bride price myself. I'm going to pay the price myself. And God comes and offers through Christ the ultimate gift, new life, forgiveness, grace, and mercy through his death and resurrection. And he extends the cup to us. I will give my life for you. And all we have to do is take and drink and receive that grace, mercy, and forgiveness. So that's what we are celebrating this morning. If you would like to do that, you can come down to the table and take the bread and take the cup. I'll read the traditional rites of communion, and while I do that, could our table greeters come down? But on the night that Jesus was betrayed, he took the bread, and he blessed it, and he broke it, and he said, "This is my body, broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And then in the same way, after the supper, he took the cup and said, "This cup is the new covenant." What is a covenant? He's referring back to the marriage covenant, the promise, a new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink in remembrance of me. And so it's it's like a solemn celebration of God's proposal to us, his bride, I know it's kind of weird to think of it like that. But the creator of the universe, who made us in his image and his likeness, is saying, I love you, and I don't want you to live without me. And he offers us a new way of living, a new way of thinking, a new way of peace and purpose and meaning, connected to our God who created us. Please come forward.
Suffering I do drink, of its work I do sing.
Great to see you. Great to see you. Hey, how you doing? Mike Lair.
For on it my Savior, both bruised and crushed, show that God is love, God is just. Cross you, beckon me, you draw me gently to my knees, and I am lost for words, so lost in love. I'm sweetly broken, my holy surrender. Oh yeah. Escape undeserved life have I been given through Christ crucified. You've called me out of death, you've called me into life, and I was under your wrath. Through the cross I'm reconciled. At the cross you beckon me, you draw me gently to my knees, and I am lost for words, so lost in love. I'm sweetly broken, holy surrender. At the cross you beckon me, you draw me gently to my knees, and I am lost for words, so lost in love. I'm sweetly broken, holy surrender. And of the cross I must confess, how wondrous your redeeming love, and how great is your faithfulness. At the cross you beckon me, you draw me gently to my knees, and I am lost for words, so lost in love. I'm sweetly broken, holy surrender. At the cross you beckon me, you draw me gently to my knees, and I am lost for words, so lost in love. I'm sweetly broken, holy surrender.
We're going to go with the blessing from Ephesians today. And may you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is too great to understand fully. Then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. Have a great week. Go in peace.